I fought over who should give the eulogy. Like always, I won. That's how special our dad is and was to us. We've been able to go over all the kind messages and words we have received. It's heartwarming to see his reach and how loved he was and the impact he had on so many people's lives. The outpouring of support has been incredible. Shut up. The outpouring of support has been incredible. We've been getting so many calls. My mother hung up on Phil Murphy thinking he was a telemarketer 3 times. I think the best way to honor my father is to share with you all the things he has taught me, things that have shaped our lives and shaped how we will raise our own children. He didn't sit me down and teach me these things. He taught through his own actions and led by example. My father's lessons will continue to stick with me and my siblings and shape our future decisions. Here are a few I'd like to share. He taught me the value of working hard. When I was a kid and people would ask what my father did for a living, I would tell them he ran the hospital, even long before he was the president. I was always very proud of what my father did for a living and how hard he worked to get there. My father was extremely ambitious and showed me the life I could have if I worked just as hard. He embodied and believed in the American dream, and he achieved it. As I'm writing this speech, it's very easy to get lost into memories about family and our life with him. But I can't help but sit here and think about the other life he had. I can't help but think about the other relationships he had, the friends, the colleagues, the coworkers that he was impacted by and that he had an impact on. I can't help but think of that version of him and the pride that I feel. He had a whole other family at Raritan Bank. And all the good and bad that comes with it. All the stress was worth what the job did. The truth is, the harder he worked and the more stressed he was, the happier he was. He loved the job and all the people in it. Raritan Bay was his second family for 20 years of his life. I know he felt all the hard work he put in to get there was worth it to be a part of that team. My brother recalls a time when our family went out for breakfast. He ran into a young man that worked at the hospital. My dad ended up buying him and his family breakfast. When he asked if he bought the breakfast, the person who works for him quickly corrected us and said, "No, I bought that person breakfast because he works with me." I did not understand the distinction until later in life. He never let his success get to his head. He always showed the same respect to the people around him, everyone from the young college graduate just starting to the board of directors. He taught me humility. He taught me how to value myself, that I could be anyone I wanted to be. He came from humble beginnings. One thing I always remember my dad repeating to me was how his high school guidance counselor told him he'd never go to college and never amount to anything. My dad was stubborn. He held on to those words for 44 years. My father ended up going to college, during which he started a landscaping business to pay his way through. He'd always tell us that every day he worked as a landscaper, he'd stare into the property, clean it up, with the thought he would one day have all of that and more for his family. It fueled him. He spent his life trying to prove people wrong. He went on to graduate college, to become a CPA, and eventually to become the president of 2 hospitals. His ambition and drive was endless. He worked very hard for everything he got to prove to himself and to that high school guidance counselor that he could do and be anything. And he made sure every day that I knew I could do the same. More importantly, he taught me how to be a sibling, how valuable family is. He showed me that I should love my siblings because they're the oldest and longest relationship you'll have in your life, just as he loved all of his very much. I know there's not many things that made him happier than spending time with his 4 brothers and little sister. Golf outings, barbecues, Yankee games, visits to Penn State, trips to Aruba all meant more to him when he was surrounded by his family. My brother and my sister are my best friends, and I value those relationships because I saw the value he had in his. He taught me how to treat a woman. My mother was the love of his life. One of the greatest memories I have of my parents was at my uncle's wedding. They got up in front of everyone and sang to Paradise by the Dashboard Light. You could see in that moment that nothing else mattered to them besides how much they loved each other. I'll truly cherish that moment for the rest of my life. My father's love for my mother was endless. There's nothing he would ever say no to her for. She asked for a lot. My parents got together when they were 17 years old. For 44 years, my father has loved my mother with every part of him. On the last day we were with him, he was pretty out of it, not very responsive to any of us. My mom held his hand and asked him to open his eyes just one more time. He did, and he looked up at her with the same eyes he had when they were singing Paradise by the Dashboard Light. And peace in knowing that the person who looked up at last has always been the most important in his life. He taught me how to love my family. Everything my father did in his life was for his wife and children. My father was there for everything in our lives. Every game, every practice, my father showed up. He even coached many of our teams, despite his 2 sons being arguably the most unathletic on the field. He loved taking us to games. I can't begin to list all the sporting events I have been to in my life. He truly loved sharing those moments with Christopher and I. His last few days, Christopher would play the end of the Aaron Boone game for him. For those of you who don't know, this was one of the greatest Yankee games of all time. As Christopher reflects, he doesn't remember the crowd cheering or everyone screaming. He remembers celebrating with my dad and the moment they shared. It was very important to him that his oldest son's middle name would share his own name. I don't think there's ever been a day in my brother's life that my father wasn't proud of him. He loved that you were a lawyer. It was initially what he wanted to be in life. He trained you to question everything early on. For most of you that knew my father, you knew that he doesn't show a lot of emotion. His angry, happy, sad, and mad face were all pretty much the same. There's only ever two people that could break my dad's emotional wall. That was my mother and my sister. He adored my sister. She was his baby, his only girl. I think he enjoyed going to dance recitals more than our baseball games. There was at least a chance his child wouldn't embarrass him there. He loved my sister. He had a hard time saying that phrase, but he always made sure she heard it. He loved you and he's very, very proud of you. Growing up, I always thought my father was just oblivious to everything. We'd go out for dinner, we'd go buy things with my mom, and we were always jokingly told, "Don't tell Dad, he'll never know." We could pretty much get away with anything around him. I'm sorry to think he always knew and didn't mind as long as his family was happy. I'd like to have the same kind of oblivious attitude with my family. I'm almost done. When something like this happens in life, you start to have a lot of what-if questions. What if I had more time? What if I could spend one more day with him? What if I could say one more thing? What if I could change this or change that? I'm not going to choose to live with those moments. I'm going to choose to cherish the moments that did happen. The Yankee games, the barbecues with Marianne and Paul, vacations with Uncle Billy and Uncle Kevin. I'm going to choose to cherish all the good he provided in my life and my family's life. That's what he was. He was a source of good in our lives. When I was a kid, I looked just like my father. I still do. Everyone used to call me Tommy Jr. I know he loved it, that I was his clone. I hated it. I think I spent a lifetime running away from it. But as I sit here writing the speech, all I can think about is how lucky I would be to be anything like him. I believe that many of the good decisions my siblings and I have made in our lives are the direct results of the examples we witnessed growing up. My father is directly responsible for most of the good we have in our lives. You did your job, Dad. You proved everyone wrong and put the world at our feet. I've been able to use all the things you taught me as well as you have. I'd like to imagine you're pulling up to the 18th hole right now, 4 under par, overlooking the ocean in paradise. Thank you, Dad. Rest in peace. We love you.